Good evening, Cheeseheads, and welcome to another episode of the Cheese Room podcast. We're back in the Caller's Cave this evening. Hope you've had a great day wherever you are watching from in the world. Coming up to you from the Caller's Cave, I've got two illustrious guests with me tonight. One is very, very happy, so we'll go straight to him. HG, how are you doing, mate?
Immer wieder, Österreich. Like, you have no idea how crazy this country is going to be on Saturday night when they play Italy. It is huge. I'm so thrilled that Austria made it. And it's been a great night of football, really, for everyone, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And we will come back with a full Euros roundup before the end of the show. First, we're going to delve into some Tottenham news. But before we do that, joining us from England, of all places, is the Brazilian legend, Brendan Hurty. How are you doing, Brendan? And how is life in London?
It's good, mate. Yeah, I'm doing well. Good to see you guys. It's great to be back. Been back a couple of weeks now. Loving it. Loving watching the Euros, British commentary, British pundits.
Yeah.
It's good to be back. British food even. Not more like meals, but just British snacks that we don't have in Brazil. So yeah, it's been good.
Are you going to take anything English back in your suitcase? Like, I know when my friend from Dubai comes over, he loads it up with like HP and various other things, and things you can't get easily or very expensively in Dubai. Is there anything you're going to take back?
Yeah, if my wife has her way, I'm going to take a full suitcase of IKEA napkins. Seriously. But yeah, chocolate digestives, Jaffa cakes. I saw the Jaffa cake donuts now. My kids will go crazy about them. So.
Donuts, yeah.
Donuts, yeah.
I mean, IKEA napkins, I've got to say, there's two reasons I visit IKEA. One is meatballs, the other is napkins. Yeah. They're an absolute winner. There you go. So, first of all, if it's the first time you're watching the Cheese Room, welcome. If you're watching this on catch-up, welcome. Do please hit the like button right now and subscribe, and you'll keep up to date with all the latest goings on from the Cheese Room YouTube channel. In addition to this, we are running super chats tonight, so if you like the sound of that, have a play with it. Available in the chat window. Obviously not if you're watching this on record. First up, Spurs news. So today, Mr. Potter has been linked with the Spurs job. Now, if we go back, Grahame Potter was linked originally with the Spurs job, but we've been sidetracked by all these flash Harrys in the interim period. I am very happy. The caller called this from day one, and if the caller gets this right, you'll never hear the end of it. Potter is the perfect fit, in my view, for Spurs, a cash-strapped Spurs. A lot of people I know will disagree with me, so we'll have that out in the chat window right now. Lesby Avenue, in the words of Delia Smith. HG, what are your views on this room? I'm not sure if there's any solid foundation to it. First of all, Potter's got a 5-year contract with Brighton, I believe. But would he be a good fit for Spurs? And are you happy to see him linked with us?
Well, I'm not surprised he's linked with us, but if there's no evidence behind it, it's a bit of it's just something to talk about, isn't it? I mean, is it based on the betting odds of him being like 11-4 or something like that? It's really short odds. I don't really know where it's come from. I don't think Brighton have encouraged it. I'm not sure Potter's encouraged it. It would be nice, absolutely, because there's something that's very calming about Grahame Potter. He looks really boring, but his teams don't play boring football, and he handles the media well. I'd be happy for it to happen, but I don't see where it's come from. I mean, in the last 24 hours, I don't care really how long his contract is. If he wants to come, it may well happen. But yeah, he has no reason to leave Brighton. Brighton have no reason to get rid of him. There are links, obviously, between Daniel Levy and the Brighton chief executive because he used to work for Spurs. But still, it's just... if I'm a Brighton fan, I might be worried about losing Grahame Potter at some point, but probably not to Spurs. It just seems like maybe it's a year too early for him, or it's not the right time. But yeah, I'd love to see it happen, of course.
Okay. Brendan, where do you stand on Potter in or Potter out? Should he be waving his wand at White Hart Lane?
I'm not overly enthused by it. I guess I just kind of want this done. I just saw one of the comments. Stuart Such says, I'll take Potter, I'll take anyone at this stage. And I'm kind of there too now. It's gone on for far too long. He's okay. He wouldn't be my first choice, but he knows the Premier League. He knows how to win 9 games a season. I did look at their results last season. If you combine the 9 and the draws that they had, they did go a good sort of 23 games unbeaten in the whole season because they had loads of draws. So there's something there. They're difficult to beat maybe, and like we said all season, if they had a decent striker, then maybe, well, then they would be further up the table, obviously. But it just doesn't. It doesn't do it for me. There's I don't know.
Is it the sex factor, Brendan? Is it the sex factor? Is he the least sexy appointment we could possibly make at this juncture? Is that why you're not a Potter believer like me? I mean, you look at the guy's XG stats for Brighton, his Brighton team, I should say, not him personally, and they've got the stats tell a story, don't they? Not that I like the XG stat. But if they're a striker, they'd be up the league, wouldn't they, Brent? I mean, surely they play. What's not to like? They play attacking football. He's clearly made the most of a team that's got a very small budget, and they've dominated bigger teams than them this season. I don't really see the drawbacks. Is he not where we should be aiming right now?
No, he finished, what was it, 15th? I can't remember where Brighton finished. Maybe lower. So that's where we're aiming for. Like. Well, I said this before, it was on a YouTube or a pod that, like, let's go back to 1996 when Southampton finished 17th. Their manager was David Berrington. So would he be in with this shout to manage Spurs? You know what I mean? It seems very convenient. I just want this done. He's not my first choice, but if he is, I'll support him. Whether he's sexy or not, I don't look for sex appeal in my managers. I look for a track record. And yes, the style of play is hugely important. But he wouldn't be my first choice. I know HG doesn't like him, but I'm still thinking Ten Hag's in there. They may resurrect the Fonseca deal, or that looks like it's been put to bed now. We just need it sorted and quickly because it's just the pre-season's going to be on us soon, and we haven't got a manager.
There's certainly a lot to sort out. HG, this comment from Cat Metcalf. Potter, decent man, decent football, doesn't fall out with players, management or media. What's not to like? Is he not the stability that we need right now?
Yeah. I mean, when you put it like that, like we want a manager that can help his team create chances and stop the opponent from getting chances. That's what you want from a manager, right? So if he's able to do that with Brighton to a very high level, you'd like to think he could do it better or just as well with players who are of a higher quality. And I do think Spurs have better quality players than Brighton. If you look at the Brighton team, I mean, Bissouma's being linked with a higher level. So is Ben White. But that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously, none of their strikers are. It's pretty much a workman-like team. I mean, Lamptey, of course, is the right back, but he was injured for half the season. So, like, I think if Potter can get the Brighton players playing to the level they were, and basically putting him in the position to win, and the players weren't good enough to get them over the line, I'm not sure what you'd want from a manager. Like we saw with Mourinho, he did nothing to help the players win, and the players were able to do it because they were good quality. If you've got the manager who's helping the players do what we want them to do, that's got to be a good move. To me, the issue comes from Brighton's side. They clearly won't want to let him go, and I doubt whether he would want to take on the Spurs job, even though he would be an absolutely perfect fit for what we need right now.
Just sorry to interrupt, but HG, he's what, our 8th choice, and I know a lot of it is rumor and conjecture, but from him as well, but from the players, will they respect him? Will they look at him and say, right, I want to get behind this guy? They'll be like, oh no, you were 8th choice. There were 7 other managers that we went through that turned us down, or whatever happened before you. I think that's a worry. I think then that would be the case with any manager we get in at this stage. But it's just a bit of a worry that we've gone through so many, and we've kind of gone back to the first person we were linked with at the start, him and Ten Hag. And I think Rodgers was mentioned recently as well. And it's just, I don't know. It just looks, it's worrying. If we were going to get them, if they were our first choice, we'd have got them 2 months ago. But we've kind of
going, not Rodgers, anyone but Rodgers. No.
No, look, I mean, like I hear what you're saying, but I think if I'm a footballer at Spurs, 1, I'm happy that Mourinho's gone, and 2, I'm going to want to make a good impression on whoever the new manager is. Like, if you're winning games, then the manager, I don't think it takes too much to impress a footballer. I mean, I don't mean that nastily, But I think if the manager can, sets it, makes training interesting, makes it look like he has a plan, the players will get behind it. It's only when things go wrong that players start to think, hang on a second, like he's not picking me, something needs to change. Potter, if you look at his history, he doesn't fall out with players, just as Kat said. So I don't really know what we want. Like I understand that there are obvious negatives to his appointment, but I don't think the players should really care because their goal is to play. So they are going to suck up to him quite quickly, I'd have thought, because they want to play. If they're not playing at Spurs, and some of them didn't play at all under Mourinho, that they need this second chance. Whether he was 8th choice Spurs manager or 3rd choice Spurs manager, the players won't care. The players will care if he can do his job. If he can't, there will be issues. But there's nothing in Potter's record to think that he can't do a successful job because he's done it pretty much everywhere he's gone. Like, this is the strange thing. Even when he came back into English football and was manager at Swansea, that Swansea team, like, they didn't play particularly well that season, or at least the results weren't great, yet he still got a move into the Premier League based off of it. So clearly his team was highly rated. He gave Joe Rodon his debut, and we all know what Spurs fans currently think about Joe Rodon. Like, there's a lot to like about the appointment. I just can't see it. I don't think he'd want it. But from a Spurs point of view, I think we'd have to be laughing if he decided to come because there aren't many negatives in my eyes.
Oh, I completely agree. And Joe Webb makes a very interesting point that I've thrown up there. Enthused by Potter, especially if he can bring Lamptey or White. So probably got some good players that we could be sniffing around as well. And I think that's why people might be... we've been linked to these players in the press. Maybe that's why people are putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with Potter. Who knows? A few comments in here as well. Chip saying, I prefer Nuno to Potter. Brent, if it was a choice between a Nuno and Potter, who would you choose?
So it's a choice between a shit taco and a turd sandwich. You know what I mean? Like, neither. Like, I don't know.
I think you'd be a bit harsh there, Brent. I've got to be honest, mate.
To me, neither. Like, again, I want it sorted. So whoever comes in, I'll support them. But these names that we've gone back down to now, they're just not doing it for me. Nuno had a terrible season. Your dad probably. What's your dad's thoughts on it? Because he's a Wolves fan.
Well, yeah, and I've just spent the weekend chatting to him about football. So yeah, happy Father's Day, Dad. What does he think about it? He thinks that he wasn't that sad to see Nuno go. And hasn't got a clue about the new manager they've just brought in because he's another Mendes client, and no one's really heard of him. I mean, he's won the Portuguese league. That's about it. But in terms of Nuno, I don't think he thinks he's a good manager. Would he fit Spurs in terms of the profile of the manager we want and the style of play that we want? Absolutely not, because Spurs fans are slightly delusional and want a really big name manager. And
are you calling Brendan delusional? Are you calling Brendan delusional?
Yeah, we know that from previous experience. But he also plays quite negative football. So he's more of Mourinho. He's Mourinho plus, if you like. His teams were devastating on the break when they were good at Wolves. But actually, in terms of watching them, counter-attacking, more Mourinho. Do we really want that? We interrupt this, though, however, to bring a news flash. We've had our first super chat. Paul Muir, thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul.
Put £5 into the Cheese Room coffers. Thank you, mate. Potter, a clear playing style, develop youth, improve player confidence, influence squad mentality, create a cultural philosophy of attacking football. I mean, that's music to my ears. That's exactly what I'm thinking. That's exactly what I want. And that's exactly what the caller's been calling for from the word go. So, Brendan, eat your words. Potter is going to do an amazing job for us. I tell you now.
You're just happy that Paul has just doubled our YouTube revenue with that one super chat.
Doubled it? What are you talking about?
Yeah, look, fine. I know he's got the degree in emotional intelligence and stuff, and I get that. So he will connect with the players. So fine, but just meh for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of the job now, isn't it? Like, to be able to connect with the players. Like, Mourinho fell out with them one by one. I mean, basically dominoes. Each and every week it was someone else. Yeah, Pochettino, he did that initially. He got rid of what he considered the bad eggs. And then for 3 or 4 years, we were pretty much good to go. Like Chadley asked to leave, but not because he hated Pochettino. He wanted to leave because he wanted to play more. That was Pochettino's biggest flaw, is that he couldn't keep everyone happy. In Potter, like there's really nothing to look at Potter's history to make you think he's going to be a bad choice for what he does. You can look at what his players did, but yeah, like does Kane playing really well last season make Mourinho a bad manager, or does Mourinho making bad decisions last season make Mourinho a bad manager? Like to me, it's all about what the manager can do, and Potter, he would be a really, really good choice for Spurs. I just would be surprised to see it happen. Like someone like Potter, I'm sure there are others around Europe that are like Potter, but yeah, again, like people are going to think, well, if we're going to take someone from Europe, we do want a sexier name. We want someone that we don't have Danny Rose. I mean, that is pretty much it. There are lots of Spurs fans. I mean, I spoke to a Spurs fan yesterday who couldn't name a single member of the Italian team. And when I said, well, what about Jorginho? The guy was like, yeah, I've never heard of him. I don't watch Italian football. Like, that's the kind of fan that we're dealing with sometimes. So it's rough. But I definitely think that someone like Potter, it's a good move for Spurs, because we are not the club that we want to be. We can't attract the players that we really want. We can't attract the managers that we really want, because we don't have that culture of success. Players don't look at Spurs and think, this is where I want to play. This is because, I mean, frankly, you look at Spurs, you think, I might have a couple of years of okayness, but then I'm going to want to move on to something bigger. And Spurs aren't really that stepping stone club anymore. So we have to have someone who is that leader of men. And even though he doesn't look like one, perhaps Grahame Potter is that guy.
Well, the Yid Kid has given us a second paycheck of the night. Thank you, mate. If you want to stick a comment up there, we will absolutely get to it. I think there's a good question I saw. Why are we not in for Rafa? Ollie Kemp says, why are we not in for Rafa? What's the thoughts around that? Because by the sound of it, Everton are very strongly linked with him, and he may well sign for them shortly. But Rafa's not one that's really been in the race at all. Is it because we consider him a bit old, over the hill, and we've just had that with Mourinho, and we don't want to go back to Rafa? I mean, he did a great job at Newcastle, didn't he? So what are your thoughts on that, HG?
Yeah, I mean, this is it. Like, Rafa Benitez always seemed to me to be the safest pair of hands. If you wanted someone to come in and steady the ship for a season or two, then he would be the guy to do it, because, yes, he is also ex-Chelsea, like a number of managers are, but he won something with them and they still hate him. So there's nothing really Chelsea about Rafael Benitez. Yeah, obviously he's not been in England for a couple of seasons, but we know he knows the league. We know his family have lived in Liverpool pretty much ever since he got the job up there. He's well versed with English football. It would be a very good short-term appointment. And that's the thing. Like, you're basically saying to him, come in, we'll see what you can do. But, like, is that really going to be enough for Spurs? It's a tough choice. But when it comes to the safe pair of hands, then Benitez is clearly the best choice out there. I think that, Levy included, most Spurs fans want to see someone a bit more progressive than Benitez was, because although he had some really good players in that Liverpool side, and although he did win the Champions League with them too, that they weren't great attacking. They had Torres and Gerrard, but that was about it. I mean, they had Dirk Kuyt down the wing, was never really a goal-scoring winger, was never really a creative winger, but did his job for the team. We need players like that, and we need a manager that understands how to build the team. But I just think that Benitez would have been in the top 5 options for me, but not the top 3, and not one I would have pursued early on.
Sweaty Cockerel says, ask him, he's right beneath me, referring to Rafa Benitez. I love that. Friend, Rafa for you. You're a bit of a doppelganger, aren't you?
Sorry?
You're a bit of a doppelganger for Rafa, aren't you?
Oh, fuck off. Come on. Come on. I'm with HG. I think, we do want someone a bit more progressive. Similarly to Mourinho, he was great maybe 10 years ago. And he's like safe pair of hands. Like, he'd do a job. He doesn't have the baggage that Mourinho has. But it'd be pointless in a way. We do kind of want a manager that long term that does bring through youth, and again, that does sound more like Potter than Rafa. So between Potter and Rafa, I'd go for Potter probably. But yeah, Rafa would be a safe pair of hands and nothing more. And he wouldn't really be inspiring a hire. He'd definitely come. But I just do think we need to look more progressive, more forward thinking, look at managers around the world on the continent and the football that they're playing. And it probably has just passed Rafa a bit too much from when he was at his prime.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. We're going to move on now and talk about Harry Kane. So, rumours in the press that Mr. Kane has been the subject of a transfer bid from Manchester City for 100 million. That includes the option of some players. So that's not quite clear from the rumour, and hence I stress it is a rumour, whether that's 100 million plus players or 100 million including some players. HG, 100 million quid. Do you take that?
Well, for me personally, yeah. But when it comes to selling Kane, no. Absolutely not. To me, I read that rumor as it's 100 million pounds for Kane, and we'll give you like first dibs on some other players that you'll then have to pay for with that 100 million. No way. It's just not. It's not a viable choice for Spurs because Kane is so important to us. Like we've talked about this so many times. We need a striker anyway, right? Even if Kane doesn't leave, we still need a striker. We need someone to come in because Vinicius has gone. If we sell Kane, we need two strikers, and 100 million won't buy us two strikers. Really, that's just the way it is. So, yeah, it's a nice thing for the press to talk about. Obviously, I do believe that Kane would like to go, but they will have to seriously overpay for us to consider it. I wrote a piece on the Facebook page, on my own Facebook page today, that was kind of along the lines of like, if Man City wants him, like they're going to have to pay as far as I'm concerned, like what like $1.50 on the dollar, as they say in American sports. They have to pay over the odds. They won't get him for a fair value because he's just too important to us. If you want to decimate Spurs, which it probably would do, right? Kane is so much of our output. He's the leader of the squad. He is the leader of the club. Like you don't sell to your rivals anyway. So I'm sorry, Man City. Like if you want to sell us some of your deadwood, that's great. It gives us an indication of who you don't want. But we'll use our own money to go and get the ones we don't want. We don't need your 100 million to do it. So no, it's a complete non-starter for me.
Ollie Kemp, massive thanks for your support. 199. Thank you very much, mate. Super sticker for you. Brendan. What are your thoughts on this then? So, here's a good shout from Phil Ambrose. Sterling is on more money at City than Kane at Spurs. Mm-hmm. Imagine us including Sterling in any deal, thus increasing our wage while simultaneously decreasing the ability of the squad significantly, unless you want someone who can run like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is for me why the players thing has so many issues, doesn't it? Because apart from anything else, what's Jesus on? Who's also rumored. He's got to be on 200 grand a week, probably, hasn't he? Harry Kane money. Him and Sterling, and Laporte, I think, is the other one that I've seen mentioned in the press today. So there's issues all over the place with this, isn't there? Not just for what HG sort of talks about the cash, but in terms of players coming back, surely those are non-starters for Spurs.
Yeah, I saw the tweet and just thought it was utter bullshit from the off. Just the way it was like they've made the bid, these are the players, and then right at the end, nothing's going to happen till after the Euros. So it just looked like crap. It looked like completely made up for clicks and follows and stuff, and for certain journalists to get fees on certain shows and stuff. And it didn't make any sense. And obviously, if there's one team in the Premier League that's going to go in for Harry, it will be City. But I just thought today was just bullshit. It wasn't. It was denied straight away by the Manchester Evening News and Alistair Gold, who I kind of would listen to probably more so than a certain Twitter journalist. So I wasn't overly fussed by the news today. Nothing really has changed. Yes, he probably does want to leave. Ball's still in our court. But yeah, those players, I agree 100% what Phil Ambrose said. Sterling is probably on more than Harry Kane's on, and he's nowhere near as good. So why would we include him in that? It just, I
have to say, like if we were to do this type of deal, and we don't see these deals anyway, so it would be extremely unlikely. Because first off, you need to have the players agree. And I don't think Laporte would agree to come to Spurs, even though we clearly need him. I don't think I think he'd have better options than Spurs. But when it comes to the wages, like I'm not taking on Raheem Sterling's deal. Like he made that deal with Man City. So whatever wages they have agreed to pay him, well, if we decide that we're not going to pay that, we won't pay it, and Man City will have to pay the difference. It all depends on how much Man City want to get rid of him. So if he's on 220 grand a week, Spurs could easily say, yeah, okay, we'll take him if you pay half his wages, if not more so. It depends on how much City want to overpay. Like we don't have to take on. This is not like American sports where you take on the contract that someone else has already agreed, because we are individual entities. We are not a franchise as part of the league, and so we don't have to take on Raheem Sterling's wages. We could give Gabriel Jesus probably a pay rise. I see one guy saying that that Gabriel Jesus is on 60,000 a week by all reports. We could pay that, right? We could up it to 80, and that would work to maybe get Gabriel Jesus on board. But yeah, like Sterling, would he come to Spurs? Maybe. I think he's more of an Arsenal player, but that's because I don't like him, and so I want to see him at Arsenal. I take Laporte absolutely. I'd probably take Gabriel Jesus because he knows the Premier League. He's not a bad striker, but he wouldn't be the number one. You'd have to find someone to play with him or in front of him, and maybe he won't want that role after having done it at City for so long. There are so many ifs and buts about swaps is that I don't see it happening. Usually it's a straight swap. There's no cash involved. It's player for player. And even those you don't see often. So look, City obviously are trying to rummage around in the bottom of their drawer to find out what they can get rid of to try and get Kane to join. But Spurs, we're not looking for junk, right? Like you could look at some of those Man City players that haven't played a lot. Like I don't think Bernardo Silva is used anywhere near as often as he should be. But there are rumours that actually he wanted to go to Barcelona last summer, so he's not going to want to come to Spurs. Was it the left back Mendy? Like no one's really been impressed by him, and we don't need a left back, so he's out. Nathan Ake would be a possible because he counts as homegrown, and I think that he might leave Man City's bench to play regularly at Spurs. But he's only been there for 1 year, and clearly he signed to be a bench person at Man City anyway, and just collect the trophies. Be on the bench for the big games and say you've been part of it while earning a small fortune while doing so. So, is Ake really the type of defender we want either? I don't think so. I see it as a complete non-starter. If City really want Kane, then they are going to have to pay far more than 100 million because we don't need or want to sell. And Kane, I think we all know, Kane is not going to throw his toys out the pram about it. I don't see him doing that. It would cause too much damage to his reputation, not least among Spurs fans who'll be like, wait, hang on a second. We've called you one of our own from the very start. And I wouldn't say the first sign of trouble, but at the first real opportunity, you're trying to get out of it. You signed the 6-year deal, mate. We didn't force you to do it, so we can hold you to it. And next year, he's going to have more cards and more leverage. Next year, Man City might not need a striker, but Man United will. So, it's one of those things. But no, it's going to be one of those things that runs all year. But I don't think Kane should leave. I don't want him to leave. I think Levy is smart enough to understand. I mean, hopefully he's smart enough to understand.
Do you think? Hang on. You're calling Levy smart after all he's done recently?
No, I mean, this is it. Like, there's not much to base that smartness on, but you would like to think, right? Like, even if he knows nothing about football, you have the England captain in your squad. He is the Spurs, not the captain of the club, but quite often the leader on the pitch. He scored a goal. 0.67 is the scoring rate, I think. Like 2 goals every 3 games. That's what he's done for Spurs. Levy, even if you are clueless about football, would look at those numbers and think he's quite important. Maybe we should keep him. So I don't think Levy knows much about football, but I think he understands that that for Spurs to be anywhere near what he wants them to be, whether it's success on the pitch or brand value, he needs to keep Kane around. He just does.
Brendan, that was a very long answer, HG. I appreciate it. I'm surprised you actually didn't go purple and pass out. Brendan, take a breather. Brendan, How much money does get Kane this summer?
Straight cash. I'd start at 200 million. You'd maybe accept a bit less, but it's about what he's worth to us, not what he's worth to other teams. And he's worth everything to us, as HG just said, in terms of goals per season, per game. So yeah, if it was less than 200 million or 150 plus decent players, then I'd be pissed off. And I think that's where the club is. Levy's always saying that we're not going to sell, but if a player wants out, we've seen with Berbatov, we've seen with Carrick and Bale and Modric and all these other players that once they've decided to go, it's hard to hold on to them. So if he really does want to go, then 200 million or 150 plus Bernardo Silva and Ruben Diaz. I know, but like players that realistically, you know what I mean? But I don't want to see him go. I still don't think he'll go. I still think that as long as we get this managerial appointment right, that we can convince him to stay on for one more year. Just give him that one more year, then you can go, Harry. Just give us one more chance, please. Come on, just give us one more chance.
Sound like a pathetic boyfriend. Like,
fucking
girlfriend dressed and she's trying to walk away.
I can change.
We can change. We can win something. Probably not, but we can give it a go. Okay.
The Spursy thing would be that we keep him for the year and then he does his cruciate in like September and we're screwed, right? That would be the Spursy thing.
Yeah.
But we have to keep him. Like there's no viable reason for us to sell as far as I'm concerned. We have to keep him.
Yeah. Well, there doesn't seem to be much logic to selling him right now, and market is depressed. Breaking news: England qualify for the knockout phase with a game to spare, thanks to the results. That's good, isn't it? We'll talk about that in a bit. Okay. Well, I mean that was Tottenham. Let's talk Euros. HG, I know you're desperate, and I mean desperate to talk about Austria. So talk me through it. 1-0 win today, wasn't it? I guess you're happy, over the moon, overjoyed, and going to see Austria in the last 16. Tell me all about it.
So look, I think this is the best way I can explain it, right? Do you remember the famous Ashes series of 2005, right?
Yes, I do.
You were all in England, I'm sure. That summer, no one gave a crap about football, right? I mean, there was no football that summer anyway, but cricket.
I was about to say there was no football that summer.
But the cricket got to a level of everyone was checking the cricket. It was almost like the Euros were on, but for cricket. Everyone cared about cricket. That's what this Saturday will be for Austrians. No one, and for most of my time here, not many people really care about Austrian football. The local league is not the greatest. A lot of Austrians support Bayern Munich because it's the biggest team that's closest to them. And skiing is number one here. Like the downhill people and the slalom people, they are gods as far as Austrian sport is concerned. Footballers aren't. They've seen Salzburg come along and dominate Austrian football, and they've been kind of like, oh yeah, well, it's even less reason to watch Austrian football. But what Salzburg have done is increase the level of the Austrian players. People like Sabitzer, people like Leimer and Leiner and Schlager, like so many of that team have been through the Red Bull Salzburg Academy. And this is the best Austrian team that I think I've ever seen in my lifetime. Like I remember the 90 World Cup when they got to it. I think they made 98 as well, but they weren't good then. This Austrian side, on their day, I think are capable of beating anyone. They probably won't beat Italy, but the fact is, Saturday night at 9 o'clock here, the entire country is going to be watching the football, and it's going to inspire the kids. And people are going, like, you know how like Wimbledon, for 2 weeks every year, suddenly all the British kids want to be like the next Tim Henman or the next Andy Murray, and then the rest of the year they forget about it. That's what Saturday night is going to be. It is a massive, massive game for Austria. And like weirdly, after the game, obviously I watched it on Austrian TV. They were upset that they only won by 1-0. There was no euphoria that they'd got to the last 16 of a major tournament for the first time in 39 years or whatever it was. That it was, we should have done better. We should have absolutely destroyed that Ukraine side, and they should have. They looked really, really good tonight. And so, look, they may not have much of a chance against Italy, but if Italy do underestimate them, then Austria, I think, they do have the capability to pull off a surprise.
I'm adopting them. I'm having them as my second team. I think you've won me over, HG.
Wales, not Wales, mate. Why do you not half Welsh as well?
Third team. Definitely not the Scots. Can't have them in there. I've got to say that I think they've done incredibly well. And I rubbished them a little bit. I was taking the piss out of you in the first video we did, and I apologise. Well done, Austria. You've done your country proud. You've done HG proud, and we look forward to playing you at some stage later in the final or something. England. Let's talk England. So it wasn't exactly a classic performance against Scotland. In fact, it was more of a Spurs-like performance than I've seen in previous times from an England team. Brendan, firstly, how do we bounce back from that Scotland result? Tactically, what do you do? Because we were inept, weren't we?
Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great to watch. You'd think we would be a bit more on the front foot against Czech Republic. We had the excuse that the Scottish game is a game in itself. It is like a derby almost, and it means more to Scotland probably than it does to us, both in terms of the competition, but in terms of also pride. So I was lucky. I was in London, obviously, because I'm in London now, when on the day of the game, and just getting the tube. I was meeting a mate in Holborn at a pub, and loads of Scottish fans everywhere, really good atmosphere, and it was great. It was great, and all the videos that you see forwarded to your WhatsApp and stuff. That's the only good thing I took from that Scotland game, was the Scottish fans were superb. But the game itself, England were just far too negative. We're just looking to contain, and maybe that was the instructions from Southgate. Maybe they were just a bit too scared to lose. But you'd hope against the Czech Republic that we do play a bit more forward thinking, that maybe we don't need to have the double pivot. I'm not against the double pivot. I just think that maybe we can give Bellingham a chance. Bellingham alongside Rice, perhaps, as if we are going to play two holding. Bellingham is a bit more progressive than, certainly more progressive than Henderson or whoever else. Who did we play with Rice in the double pivot? Phillips, thank you. So I just, Mason Mount's not turned up. Foden's not turned up. Sterling hasn't turned up. So he's got a lot of thinking to do. Do we stick with them and hope that they do provide the service for Harry? Or do we look at bringing in Sancho? Do we look at maybe mixing it up a bit, getting Grealish in from the start? I think that there's lots of questions to be answered. And you'd kind of hope that Southgate is just playing the tournament game, and that this is just an approach for the group stage. And afterwards, you will see us being a lot more progressive, because we need it. We're a bit pissed off with England. It is, like you said, Spursy.
It is just like watching Spurs. HG, you're doing a lot of smirking during that bit of discussion from Brent. What are your thoughts? What do they need to do tactically? Surely we're going to see Grealish and Sancho. We've already qualified. Surely you can experiment a little bit, can't you?
I mean, I suppose that's it. Like, if we have qualified now, we know we're going to be at the very worst one of the three best, one of the four best third place teams. I suppose that means something. I'm smirking because I'm reading some of the comments from our fans. They're making me laugh. But it's nothing to do with you, Brendan. It's just the comments.
I'm reading them as well. They're brilliant.
But I just think that with England, like, if Kane is your main striker, and he's your captain, you need to get the best out of him. And look, I don't think Foden is that type of creative player. I don't think that Sterling is the type of creative player that Kane loves. Kane needs someone like Eriksen, and the one we have that can do that is Grealish. I think Kane has even publicly said that Grealish is the person he enjoys playing with the most, because they're on the same wavelength. This is what we need to be doing. I don't really care if it's double pivot with Mount. I don't really care how the team is based, how the team is set up. What I care is that what we struggle to do is create chances. That's what we need to change. Like, I mean, the two games have been 1-0 and 0-0, right? It's not that we're conceding loads of chances. We're not. But we're just not creating them. And so something has to change. If you decide that you need someone to stretch the pitch, then it's going to be Grealish, Kane, and maybe Sterling, right? And not Sancho, because Sancho, although he is fast, plays a different way to how Sterling plays. If you feel like you need that, then go ahead and do it. But you've got to base the team around what you want to do from an attacking sense. Right now, as Brendan said, we're too defensive. We seem too scared to concede. And we've all seen it from England. Like if we get to a knockout stage, and we will get to a knockout stage game, if we concede first in that game, it will be similar to when we conceded against Iceland and the heads just dropped because suddenly everyone is thinking, oh no, not again. The fans are thinking it, the players are thinking it. And so we need to get out of that mindset. And if that means being positive at all times, then we should do it. Forget what the press is saying. Right, the press will do whatever they need to do to get clicks, to get attention. They are not interested in England succeeding. They are interested in themselves. And Southgate needs to figure out what is going to help England succeed. I suspect that against the Czech Republic, it is now the perfect time to be like, you know what, I'm going to be a bit different. He's talking about how Sancho is inexperienced. Like, I'm sorry, he's played, 4 seasons in the Bundesliga now? Like, when you say inexperienced, you mean you haven't gone to Germany enough to watch him. That's what you mean. You don't know anything about Sancho. You're picking him because of statistics, but not on how he plays the game. I know he sees it. He sees him in training, but if training is designed to show the best of what we can do on match days, then the training has obviously been crap because we're not seeing it. I just think that the Czech game is a chance to kind of show something, but it's one of those weird things. Like if we do win against the Czechs and we do finish first in the group, we will face a very, very difficult game in the last 16 because it will be from either France, Germany, or Portugal, almost certainly. So like, we're going to struggle in that game, and then we might think, oh, well, we need to be a bit more defensive. Like, what are you planning for? But horses for courses. Against the Czechs, we need to go out and try and win the game, just like Denmark did tonight. You get the fans behind you, you get a couple of goals, you go for it, and you win comfortably. We are capable of doing that. What happens after that, we can cross that bridge when it comes to it. But England, they just need to think that we want to go out and create chances. We want to go out and impose ourselves on the opposition. And then it shouldn't really matter who is actually doing it because it comes from here more than anywhere else.
Brendan, why is Harry Kane's form so poor for England? Has he got Man City on his mind, or is there more to it in terms of tactically? We're not giving him ball in the right areas. What is it that's holding him back? Because it doesn't look like the Harry Kane that's played for us this season, does it?
I think it's a combination of factors. I think he clearly doesn't look fit. I think he rushed. We all know that he rushed himself back from injury far too quickly after the Everton game, and Richarlison rolled on his ankle and it was at a 90-degree angle. That takes months, like a couple of months to heal. And he came back within a week and a half and was terrible in that game and hasn't really kicked on since then. So I think that injury certainly is a factor here. And just the number of games he's played, mentally, physically, the fatigue of playing a 60-game season, I think it's taking its toll. So there's a number of factors. And the Man City rumours, obviously, I'm sure that's playing a role as well. And him not getting the service from his supporting players. So there's a number of factors why we haven't seen the best in Kane. A lot of them from him, but also from the team. You just hope that he does kick in. I think maybe once he does get a goal, it'll give him a bit of a boost, a bit of a bounce. Not that he needs confidence. He's well experienced and scored loads of goals. But you know what I mean? Like when you're in a competition, this is his 3rd game now in this tournament. He hasn't scored yet. I don't know if he's at the shot on target. So he's got to turn up. And I think once he does get that goal, it will lift him. It will lift the players. It'll lift the country and we'll kick on. So you just hope that it's not an injury with his ankle, that it is just fatigue. But he can deal with that. So there's a whole host of factors why he's not kicked on.
Like if you think back to Euro 96, which most of us, like, we all remember the feeling. We all remember what it was like to see England do well at a competition. The first game in that competition we drew and was quite boring. The second one was the Scotland game, which we were a little bit fortunate to win because obviously Scotland had that penalty where the ball moved on the spot just before McAllister struck it. That's pretty similar to where we are now. The third game in Euro 96, we went out and thrashed Holland, and suddenly it clicked, right? Whatever it was that Venables had been trying to do, it suddenly worked, and the whole country got behind it, and it felt like we could do something. The next game was Spain, and we won on penalties, and suddenly thought, we're winning on penalties, it's got to be our time. But that's what we need to kind of have. We need to create that momentum because, like, we're all talking about Kane, and the press are asking the players about Kane. But I don't think, to Kane, it's just water off a duck's back. I don't think he cares at one bit what's being said. He's not really listening to it. But if the other players are having to deal with those questions, it can't be helping them. They're the ones who are going to be going out onto the pitch thinking, crap, I've got to find Harry Kane at all times now, which it shouldn't be like that either. We need to be functioning as a team, and that's what we haven't seen. It's been very much like Spurs. You give it to an individual, and you hope they have the individual quality to do something. We saw it with Foden a couple of times, came very close in those first two games, hit the post in the second one, I think. Like, he's got the quality. But again, Foden's at what, 20, 21 just? He's not experienced either. So if Sancho's not experienced, Foden certainly isn't. You just have to worry that Southgate is picking players based on his own interests, on his own favourites, and the players that he trusts. And I get that. But at some point,
that's the right philosophy, isn't it?
Freaking Mourinho! It's Mourinho, Spurs again. We thought the season had finished, but no, it's the Spurs players in an England shirt now, and we're watching the same crap. The season hasn't ended. Oh,
go on, Brendan. Let's have a rant out of you. Go full Seb on us. Come on.
It's true. We said this in the pod yesterday, and viewers, if you haven't listened to the pod, please do. It's very similar to this, basically. But we don't have a shape. We don't have a shape. We don't have a plan. We just, like HG said, it just looked like he's thrown them out there. And, well, you're all really good players for your club, so you should be able to work it out. It's so Mourinho. There's no structure. There's no plan. There's no rhythm. There's no movement. There's no passing patterns. It's all a bit just go out there and do it. And that's my worry. I'm not a huge Southgate fan. He looks a great guy, like really nice guy. And on what he did with the taking the knee and his statement when the booing started, that's commendable. But as a manager, as a club manager, he was terrible. You put him up to Mancini, even Roberto Martinez, as managers with experience. Their track records don't compare. So my concern is that we've got the great team, but we haven't got the great manager.
Does sound very familiar, doesn't it? Although we thought we had a great manager who won everything. So, and we've tried, I suppose, to England's credit, Fabio Capello won a lot, Sven won a lot, We've tried that approach. They didn't work out either, did they? So we're going for the unqualified idiot this time. Let's hope we get across the line.
I mean, to be fair to Southgate, I think the unqualified idiot was Steve McLaren.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Wally with the brolly.
Yeah, the Wally with the brolly. Southgate is a level higher than McLaren, I'd say.
My question was going to be to whichever of you wants to. In fact, I'll come to both of you. Let's go to you first, HG. Do we want to get a result tomorrow or not?
What you mean, like finishing first or second in the group?
Yeah.
Well, look, if it's a draw, then we finish second. I think guaranteed. I mean, it's a tough question. Like if you're looking at the draw now, which I am already, I am looking ahead. It's not to say I think England can win it. I'm looking to see what is the easiest way for England to possibly win it. One side of the draw right now has Italy, Belgium, and Austria as definite qualifiers for it. And the other side has Wales, Denmark, and Holland. So if you're looking at that, you're thinking, I want to be in the Wales, Denmark, and Holland side of the draw, right? But for us to do that, that means winning the group. So we'd have to win against the Czech Republic. If we win the group, we play the second place team in Group F, which is the Germany, Portugal, France group. So that's obviously probably the most difficult game on that side of the draw, but we would be at Wembley. It would be a home game against a team that probably would have at least dropped some points. Can we beat France in a one-off game? I think we can. Can we do it to Germany? I think we can. Like they are not like insurmountable obstacles. If we were lucky enough to get past that, then I think the draw opens up. Spain could be on that side of the draw if they win the group, but there's a good chance they won't. Then if they don't, then they go over to the Italy-Belgium side. And so you're suddenly looking at maybe, England and Germany, let's say, with Holland on one side of the draw. All three of those countries will be looking at thinking, yeah, I'll have some of that. That's what I want. I don't think England can do it, but I think if they're going to, it needs to be the easiest way possible. And I suspect that means winning the group. It will be a tough last 16 game, but after that, if we can scrape our way through, maybe the confidence will start rising again. Who knows?
Brendan, for you, do we play for a draw and try and get a softer draw?
No, I think we need to win. We need a performance like the 4-1 at Euro 96, like a big wow performance to lift the country, to lift the team. Yeah. So you got to win. Winning is a great habit to create, and we get on that roll. Look at Italy. We get on that roll. So yeah, I'm all out winning. We're going to have to face strong teams eventually. So if it's in the last 16, so be it. We did the whole planning and finishing second at the World Cup last time out. And we got the first decent team that we saw in Croatia. We go and lose. So I don't want to play that game anymore. I'd like to see us play a decent team. I'd like to see us beat a decent team. If we don't, then we're not going to win it anyway. So there's no point in progressing.
And this is it. I mean, 5 years ago, we all thought, great, we're second in the group. We've got Iceland, and then we lost, right? And Iceland deservedly beat us too. It wasn't as if it shouldn't have been a shock. We just froze completely. But that's what England have to do. And obviously, and the advantage of winning the group means, as I said, you stay at Wembley for the last 16 game. But obviously, with the semi-finals and final being at Wembley too, you're looking at one game. I think it would be in Rome, the quarterfinals, and then you're at home again. So to play 5 out of 6 games at home, or 6 out of 7, that would be a massive thing for England. It would help them. You'd have to think it would help them. So like my money is not on England. If anything, my money is on the team that finished second in Group F that would have to play England and then probably Holland, and then they'll be in the final. So whoever is lucky enough to do that, they'd be a good bet from now on. But like as Rainer said, England versus Germany at Wembley in the Euros, 25 years after the semi-final.
Revenge.
Like that. Yeah, I mean, this is it. It's always revenge against Germany.
What really happens is we have a penalty shootout. The Germans win. We know how it ends.
That's true, but the Germans are slightly more likable this time around, right? I mean, like. It's not like Andy Möller strutting like this after he scored the winning penalty. No, we're like the Germans are a bit more likable. But yeah, like England, if they get the team right, if they play well, can beat anyone. We went to Spain and beat them a couple of years ago, and we had Eric Dyer and Harry Winks in midfield. We can do it, but I think that the questions from the press don't help. The expectations from a lot of fans don't help, because. This is England. Like, what is it? 3 semi-finals in my lifetime. That's equal to, what did I say? Equal to Denmark and Croatia. I mean, it's a lower level. It's a tier 2, maybe even tier 3 side. We can hope, right? I mean, hope brings it. We are Spurs fans after all.
Yeah. Well, one thing with Germany, sorry to jump in, is that I'm amazed that their team is playing so aggressively and so forward thinking, because. Can you imagine being told by Joachim Löw to pull your finger out your ass? Like, well, glass houses, mate. Come on.
It was round the balls, actually. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to throw in a little gag.
I mean, Joachim Löw's given a perfect, surely, audition for the England job. No, we'll just end that.
Don't even joke about Löw in England, please. Like, if he goes to Arsenal, absolutely. If he goes to Chelsea. Perfect. West Ham, brilliant, bellissimo. But no, really.
I'd rather Peter Unlove.
He's won the World Cup though, hasn't he?
Well, yes.
In spite of him.
And so has Jacquet.
So has Felipe Scolari, who was playing in the 2nd division last year. It doesn't mean shit.
Big Phil.
Big Phil.
I'm sure it does mean something. I'm sure it doesn't quite mean shit. Anyway, Denmark, Spirit of Ericsson, they're playing for him, aren't they? Wow, 4-1. Destroyed Russia today. Destroyed Mother Russia. Wonderful to see. You love to see that, don't you, HG? Could they be our 4th favourite team to support?
Everyone, like, we have a massive reason because Ericsson played for Spurs for so long, right? Like, if anyone in England has a reason to follow Denmark, it's Spurs. Leicester have obviously Kasper Schmeichel, but with Ericsson being the reason that like Denmark are so watched right now, it was a fantastic performance tonight. They scraped through as second. They're playing Wales in the next stage. It's a pretty good draw for them. They have the best kit of the entire tournament. I love everything about the Danish kit, the home kit, the away kit, the goalkeeper tops. They are all beautiful, almost retro for 92. Can you imagine, like, it's the final and Denmark scrape it again, and then you've got the captain Simon Kjær, and then next to him, standing there holding the other part, is Christian Eriksen. You can't tell me that wouldn't be a great football moment. Like tonight, watching that game in Copenhagen with 50,000 people, stadium almost full, it felt like normality. It was a brilliant, like, I'm getting like goosebumps like talking about it. It was an amazing experience to be able to witness that tonight. And yeah, we want to see more of it. So good luck to Denmark. They're obviously called as fourth team right now. Fourth, yeah. But yeah, you want these feel-good stories. No, as much as it's a good game to watch, Germany play France and Spain play Italy and England lose to some no-hopers. Like, we see that all the time, right? We do like to see a feel-good story. It's been a while since Greece won the Euros. What is that? 17 years ago now. We need to
old.
Yeah, Portugal winning the Euros was perhaps a bit of a shock for some. But yeah, like we want to see let's say the lower ranked countries go far in the tournament. And so yeah, let's hope that if it's Denmark, then great. If it's Austria, I'm thrilled. If it's England, perfect. But we don't want to see the same teams in the last 8 of these major competitions, because even if it has been 3 years since the last World Cup, it gets kind of boring.
And also Belgium today, worthy of a mention, breezing past 2-0. Bren, they've got to be one of the favourites, haven't they, Belgium?
Yeah, probably. I mean, this is probably the last chance saloon. Maybe 2022 World Cup, that golden generation is coming to its end. But yeah, they've got some quality players that we know a whole lot about. Obviously, they've got Lukaku up front, who's been playing superbly in the tournament, but also for Inter, and he's just won the league in Italy. He's been rejuvenated.
Another goal tonight.
Yeah, since he moved to Italy, he's been a new player, a new man, and obviously we've seen De Bruyne in midfield. His goal the other day was superb, and his pass, his assist as well was just visionary. For an easy tap in for the other guy who scored that one. But yeah, they've got quality up and down the team. They should be at least semi-finalists. And I reckon, yeah, they'd certainly could go all the way. Depends who they get in the latter stages. If they get them up against France, it was France that knocked them out the World Cup, I believe, in the last World Cup 2018. So there's perhaps question marks there, but yeah, just quality all the way through. And it's kind of like the golden generation is reaching its peak now in terms of their age. They're all around the sort of 29, 30-year-old mark, which is where most players are at their peak professionally. So yeah, with a hell of a chance.
Yeah, and go on, HG, sorry.
No, I just say, like, the issue Belgium have is that I think right now Italy are due to play Belgium in the quarters. That could have been a fantastic final, and one of them is going to get knocked out pretty early on. Belgium. They are a team that people want to see do well, because again, it's a lower ranked country. They might be the best team in the world according to FIFA, but no one looks at Belgium and sees a powerhouse. The powerhouses are France, Italy, Germany, Spain. Until 15 years ago, weren't a powerhouse, and maybe now they're not. So you do want to see those smaller countries come together, and Belgium, as we know, they do have some very, very good players. So it will make there'll be those games that you want to get home in time to watch. Like it will feel like this is a heavyweight game. I remember watching Belgium against Brazil in the last World Cup, and when Belgium beat Brazil, it was like, okay, they can really go on and do it. And then the French beat them. So it's all about getting that timing right. It's all about getting a bit of luck in the draw and seeing what you can do. I guess we'll see. But yeah, Belgium, they'll be a force, absolutely.
And finally, Netherlands breezing past, as was widely expected, really, and predicted in the Patreon. By the way, if you're new to the Cheeseman, we have a Patreon service, so full details on our website, patreon.com/Cheeseman podcast. And there you can partake in Seb's prediction league, who's top of that now? I can't quite recall, boys.
I didn't know it was running. I thought it was just still a thing from last season, so I didn't join.
Yeah. It's still running. I'm top.
What's the prize? Am I giving up one of my signed Sandro pictures as the prize?
No,
You've got one for me anyway.
I think the prize is a signed Jimmy Greaves photo. If I'm honest,
okay.
I mean, I'm going to start taking it seriously now. I know there's a prize.
But Cooler is ahead. He's done very well. There is no doubt about it. He is winning the prediction competition. You get 5 points for predicting the correct score and 2 points for predicting the correct result. Cooler's done very well. Beginner's luck, I guess. That's the only thing I can explain it. But
it's not going to top this prize, though. Like, that's what I got.
Oh, Sandro.
What was that phrase? I could hold it up a bit more. Sandro, to the caller. There you go. Yes, my man. Love Sandro.
What a legend. Him.
What an absolute legend. So Netherlands, HG, breezed past North Macedonia. Again, a traditional football powerhouse. Are they back, do you think?
Yes. I mean, it's 3 games you would have expected them to win because they're at home in all 3. And the toughest game, which was probably the Austria game, Austria without Arnautovic, who is a big part of what they tried to do. But yeah, I mean, they're getting the momentum. They've won each game, I think, relatively comfortably. Scored 8 goals now in the 3 games. Yeah, I think it all depends on what happens next. I know that in the quarterfinals they would get the winner of the Wales-Denmark game. That's something that they would be looking forward to. They don't know who they'll get because it's a 3rd place team in the last 16, but it's looking good for the Dutch. It is. I don't rate Frank de Boer at all, but the team is playing well. I think the question is, and it's similar to Italy in some respects, they haven't played anyone really good yet. They were lucky to maybe beat Ukraine in their first game, but they've been good since. And how well will they do away from Amsterdam? That is a massive part of things now for every team, right? They're going to be away from maybe comfort zones or home grounds because the big teams. Italy have played 3 games in Rome. The Danes have had 3 games in Copenhagen. I think that must play a part in things. Well, I mean, Denmark's not a big team, but having the games at home surely will help. I don't know how many home teams won't have qualified, right? I mean, I think Russia will probably be one of them, but everyone else who plays the game, Hungary would probably be another because they've got such a difficult group. But I think it will mean something. But once they're all flying around Europe for no apparent reason at a time of a pandemic, then we'll see. But Memphis Depay is a great player. Frenkie de Jong is probably one of the better midfielders in the world. When he's on it, he's a Rolls-Royce footballer. The defense seems strong. De Vrij and Dumfries has got a couple of goals. So I think they have a balanced lineup, but I don't know if they're good enough to go on and really beat the best teams in Europe. So
Van Dijk's a huge loss to them as well.
Massive. Massive. It's like the football, isn't it? He's a Rolls-Royce. Gentlemen, we've been going for an hour and 3 minutes. I want to thank you both for joining me this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I want to thank all of our watchers tonight. Please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you especially to the people on Super Chat this evening. And if you haven't tried out that feature, please do feel free to try it in future. We really appreciate you and your support for the Cheese Room podcast. Thank you to our patrons for watching, who dedicate so much time and energy into making the Cheese Room podcast fantastic. HG, anything from you before I wrap?
No, just to say, make sure that you cheer on the Austrians on Saturday night because
not England tomorrow. No,
I suspect most of the people that are watching this will be cheering on for England. I know there are some that won't be, but Austria is a good second team to have. Like you want to see, it's like FIFA. You want to see the beautiful game spread into countries that maybe aren't as football mad as others. Austria is not football mad. It really isn't. It means something to me, but they're a fun side to watch if they really get going.
And cheerio to you, Brendan. I hope you join us again soon.
I'll be back soon. Yeah, I'm back in the UK now. Let's meet up, have that Cheese Room drink that we've been planning for ages, and I'll be back on. It's good to see you guys.
Go and do the skywalk. We want footage of this. I'm not allowed to come because of bloody pandemic. I'm about to take 9 weeks off because it's the summer holidays. I'm all ready to come over and I can't. It's annoying. But yeah, go and do the skywalk, get some footage of that, and let the world see just how tall Caller actually is. He might look short, but he's actually quite tall. So yeah,
I understand.
want to see that.
Look short. I look short.
Well, I was surprised when you were told me you were over 6 feet. So yeah, I think that's a bit of a shocker. People will be surprised.
Okay. Well, have a good evening, everybody, and in the meantime, come on, you Spurs.
Spurs.